Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wind Down Wednesday, episode 12. So we are on week 12 of this practice. So we have completed 3 full months of doing these Wind Down Wednesday guided meditations. And so if you have made it to every week, whether it's live or you've watched the video afterwards, if you have done this practice every week for 3 months, you are well on your way to creating a new habit for yourself. And I feel like this has become a habit for me. I look forward to doing these every week. I sit and meditate beforehand, a couple days beforehand, when the topic comes to me, and I start to think and process and decide what I want to talk about and what the meditation might look like. And it's really expanded my practice. So I thank you for being here and practicing with me. And if you haven't been able to make it, maybe this is a good time to just gently, because we always do everything gently encourage yourself to commit to this weekly practice. Even if you can't do it with us live at this time, doing this practice weekly will really change your relationship with yourself, your relationship with spirit, and it'll strengthen your connection to the divine. So we're celebrating tonight. I've been wanting to do just a really fun meditation. I feel like we've done some pretty intense work in these sessions. And so tonight I just wanted to have kind of a 3-month anniversary celebration linked. So people who make food or make things that we smell. My point is, I'm getting a little, I'm all excited tonight. I'm like, okay. So my point is that intuition is a sense like any other sense. And we haven't really thought about it that way necessarily. And a lot of us weren't taught to develop that sense. So there's a couple of issues that come up really frequently with intuition. So the first one is having your intuition completely or partially blocked in some way. And this happens for a variety of reasons. Like I just mentioned, it may not have been acceptable in the way that you grew up or in the environment that you've been in to openly express your intuition. And intuition really grows through use. So if you can't express your intuition, it's hard to expand it. You can do it on your own, but doing it in relationship really helps confirm. And that's the second part of the issue I wanted to talk about is doubt. So once your intuition is flowing freely, there's also the issue of doubting it. And anybody who's ever had an intuition has probably been in the situation where, especially if it's like a really weird one, I get intuitions all the time and I'm like, really? I remember I was working on a client many years ago, and this was a woman who'd never received any kind of body work before, never had massage, was pretty unfamiliar with Reiki. And I was working on her and I kept getting this intuitive message to go to her feet, hold her feet, and chant. And I was like, I have never done that in a massage before, and I'm not doing that on some poor lady who's never even had a massage. Like, I'm going to scare her away. She'll never come back. And so I was kind of fighting with my intuition. I'm doing the massage, and the voice, it's getting stronger and stronger. And finally, I was like, all right, but this is going to be a disaster. So at the very end of the massage, I went and I held the lady's feet, and I chanted a big, loud, long Om. And then I just left the room and let her kind of get dressed and come out and meet me. And she said, that was the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me. When you chanted, I felt it move all the way up through my body and out the top of my head. And it was like I just traveled a long distance outside my body. It was so beautiful. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. But I doubted my intuition. So that's part of this practice of getting in touch with your intuition, is getting more confidence in trusting your intuition and recognizing that this intuitive information is here to help you. It's not here to embarrass you. It's not here for you to fall flat on your face. So, I mean, every once in a while, an intuition is wrong, or maybe it's not a true intuition. It's sort of like an ego-based thing. But I would say most of the time when I am working with my intuition, at this point, it ends up being correct. And I've learned to stop doubting myself so much. It doesn't mean it still doesn't happen. And again, especially with something that kind of comes out of nowhere or that seems a little weird, it's like, really? Oh, you really want me to do this? Well, all right, we're going to try it. I wanted to talk. I started thinking about intuition, obviously, when I was preparing for this. And I had an interesting insight. I was trying to think back to my first intuition that I could remember, because I know I grew up, I was a very intuitive child. I was an empath. I picked up the emotions of people around me, but I didn't really know what that meant. And I think that my intuition was pretty much blocked for most of my childhood. But I remembered this time I used to have a paper route, an old school newspaper route, and I would ride my bike around the neighborhood and deliver papers. And I grew up in Illinois, so it gets very dark very early there in the winter. So I was delivering papers one night and it was dark. I was on my bike and this truck pulled up on the road next to me. I was kind of at the edge of a driveway, and it was this big pickup truck with a bunch of lights on the top. I can still see it if I close my eyes. And I couldn't see into the truck. It was dark, but the truck stopped and the window opened, and immediately something inside me was like, you need to get out of here right now. You need to run. And it was not a conscious, it's giving me goosebumps right now. It was not a conscious thought. It was exactly what the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. I didn't sit there and go like, oh, this could be somebody who's just asking directions, or no, it was like, out, you get out of here right now. So I actually rode my bike through the yard of the person's house I was at. And then I rode into the neighborhood next to my neighborhood, which was an apartment complex. I think I had, again, I wasn't really consciously thinking, but I realized I couldn't get home. I was too far to make it home. And it either didn't occur to me, or there weren't any houses actually. There was the one right there where the truck already was. So maybe I was thinking if somebody came after me, I wouldn't have time to get in the house. But so I took off on my bike. I rode to this apartment complex and I actually hid in, there were these fenced in kind of dumpster areas that had like a wooden privacy fence around them. So I drove my bike into one of those and I was kind of hiding behind the fence looking out, and the truck followed me and it went up and down the little driveways of the apartment complex. Like it was clearly looking for me. And when this came up for me, I haven't thought about this in years, but I realized that was my intuition and it probably saved my life. And if I had any doubt, the fact that the truck was looking for me, it wasn't just somebody who wanted to ask directions, or maybe, it could have been a concerned neighbor, like, why are you out on your bike after dark? My intuition was right there. And the fact that I just got goosebumps talking about it kind of confirms that for me. So intuition can be a really powerful tool. And at that point, even though I was fairly blocked, it still came through. That intuition saved my life. So if you fast forward about 20 years after that, I was about 20, so 2021, and I was thinking about the first decision I ever made that was based on intuition. And that was when I decided not to go to graduate school. I was enrolled in a PsyD program, which is a clinical psychology doctoral program. And there was just something telling me it was not right for me. And I could not articulate it at the time. It was like this really strong feeling I had. And it was the hardest decision I ever had to make because I really didn't have a concrete reason as to why I didn't want to do it. I just had this weird kind of nebulous sense that there was something else, that I was meant to do something else, that I was called to do something different from that. And it was a really difficult decision. I felt like I was disappointing my parents. I felt like people were like, why would you do this? You got into this program and you're not going to go. But since then, in the 20 years or so since then, I have worked and practiced and done this work on myself. And now I use intuition in my daily life all the time. I use intuition. So I really rely on my intuition. I'm regularly amazed at the insights that I still gain from my intuition. And I still have fights with my intuition. I still have arguments with my intuition. But my life has gone down a path because I opened myself up to that intuition, and anyone can access that. That's kind of why I do this work, is to help people get in touch with their own intuition and help people start to recognize that they can connect with this force that's greater than themselves and feel supported in life. I want to talk a little bit about signs. That was the one thing I wanted to mention before we get into the last part of this. So when you start getting in touch with your intuition, you will start to recognize signs. And at first it's kind of like, oh, that's a weird coincidence. And then eventually it's like, oh, that's not a coincidence. That's a sign. And actually I had something happen today where my husband was kind of trying to make a decision about something. And I said, I was getting ready to do this, and I said, well, what does your intuition say? And he's not really somebody who probably thinks that much about that. But a couple hours later, he came back to me and he said, this happened and then this happened. And then I think that was a sign. I think that was a sign that I'm supposed to make this certain decision. And I was like, I'm rubbing off on him. It's amazing. So when you start getting in touch with your intuition, and it really doesn't take much, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And the more you open to it, the more it will open and the more powerful it will get. I wanted to talk just briefly about types of intuitive connections, because what we're dealing with here when we do meditation is these intuitive connections to different parts of ourselves, to different parts of our spiritual reality. And there's probably an infinite number of these types of intuitive connections, but I wrote a few down just to kind of give you an example of all the different things you can do with your intuition. So you can connect to your higher self, which we've done some of in these meditations. You can connect to your spirit guides, which are beings that are there to kind of help you. Some people think of them as angels. Sometimes it's people who've passed on. Although technically, I think the definition of spirit guide is not someone that you've known in this life. I have a spirit guide that's someone who passed on who I've never met. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about with spirit guides. There are people and animals who have passed on. So you can intuitively connect with somebody who's made their transition out of this physical reality and into the spiritual one. And you can also intuitively connect with people and animals who are still alive. And I do a lot of distance Reiki or distance energy work, and I can pretty much find just about anybody energetically if I know who I'm looking for. And sometimes I don't even need to know where they are. I can kind of figure out what direction they are for me. But the more information you have, the better. And that's another thing that I want to say just briefly, is that sometimes people get confused about intuition. They think that it's not an end all be all. So the more guidance you have, the more information you have, the stronger your intuition will be. So if you sit down with someone who does something like intuitive readings, or sometimes they use the word psychic readings, and you're just expecting them to read your mind and know everything, that's not really how this works. It's more like, I'm looking for this certain person, or in terms of like when I do distance Reiki, it's like somebody's having an operation and I need to know their name and kind of where they are so that I can connect to them and send energy to them. But you can really intuitively communicate with people's spirits, which is sometimes really helpful if you can't communicate with them on the physical plane for some reason. Either they're not here anymore or they're not open to it. So you can do a lot of healing work intuitively by connecting with someone else's spirit, even if you're not able to physically speak with them. Oh, there's also information, or the collective consciousness. So some people, you'll hear terms, a lot of terms in the New Age community, like Akashic records, things like that. So there's information that you can connect to intuitively that has to do with not just yourself personally, but more of humankind and your ancestral lineage and stuff like that. So that's another way you can use your intuition. And then a direct link to God. So that's what I write about in my book, or spirit, or the divine, whatever word you like to use for your higher power. So that's the strongest way to use intuition in my experience. That's kind of what I'm aiming for. I like to get information from guides. I like to check in with people who have passed, but the most powerful information I get comes straight from that source. And again, I get in fights with, like, you don't have to be afraid of the divine. Some of us were raised to sort of fear God, or to picture God as this like masculine personified figure in the sky. And I have a very personal relationship with my divine source, and we get in fights, and sometimes I don't listen. And, so the more you develop this, the more it will feel comfortable to you, and the more give and take there will be, and the more you'll open and expand, and maybe those fights won't happen as often, and you'll just kind of take things in and say, okay, this is what I'm here to do. And that's kind of where I feel like I'm headed to, but it's always a journey. It's never, I don't think we ever get to the point where we're perfectly connected all the time, and I don't think we're meant to. I want to ask you in the next week or so to think about the role of intuition in your own life and how you can strengthen it, what kind of things you can do. And we're going to touch on that in the meditation. We're going to ask for any messages to come in about how to strengthen your intuition, about whether there's anything your intuition wants you to know. And it's going to be a fun one tonight. So if you've been here before, this is going to be kind of your reward for sticking with me, because we're going to use a lot of the information that we've used in prior episodes. If you're new, that's completely fine. As always, I'm going to guide you through this. But we've been working a lot with our energetic sanctuary, or sometimes I call it your planet. And that is a source of connection to your intuition. We've built this specifically to be a safe place, and the safer you feel, the stronger your intuitions will be, the more you'll be open to those intuitions. And then the other way that you can really get in touch with intuition without really having to go anywhere energetically is with silence. So this morning I did a really intuitive yoga practice. And then at the end of the practice, I just sat in completely silent meditation. I turned my music off and letting myself open and just be in that silence, be in that state of awareness. I got all sorts of intuitive information at that time. So we're going to do a guided meditation as we usually do tonight. We're going to go to our sanctuary and do some exploring and just have some fun with this, because again, I wanted this episode to be a celebration. We've been working hard, and this is kind of a fun reward for doing this work, for being committed to this practice. And for those of you who've been showing up every week and supporting each other, I wanted to give you something to, again, kind of reward you for supporting me, for supporting each other in this practice by being here live. And if you can't come live, I always post these they'll be on Facebook, they'll be on my website, and they'll be on YouTube. So if for some reason you can't make it at this time, they're always available to you, and you're welcome to repeat the meditations as much as you like to kind of deepen your practice with everything. So in the meditation tonight, as I mentioned, we're going to explore our sanctuary, and then we're going to really spend a few minutes consciously opening that space to receive even more intuitive information, to connect even more strongly with our divine source. And then we're going to ask for those messages near the end of the meditation. So get yourself nice and comfortable. I realized I take a sip of water, and water is a cleanser. It also helps my throat, but it's a good way for me to cleanse all the energy that I built up by talking and then get back into the meditation. So it's become kind of a ceremonial thing for me. And that's another thing, as I get distracted from starting the meditation, ritual is very helpful in helping you get in touch with your intuition, developing your own ritual around connecting with yourself, around traveling to your sanctuary. Every time I do these, you can't see them, but I have stones and crystals on the floor, because I relate really strongly to the energy of rocks and crystals and stones. So I have a ritual around this every week. I have a ritual when I do an energy work session with someone. So think about, and you can check in when we're in the meditation. What does your ritual look like to get connected to this higher source? Okay, and now I'm really done. So make yourself nice and comfortable. I encourage you to sit up if you can. Sometimes when we lie down, we fall asleep, and that's okay. But if you can have your feet on the floor, that's usually really helpful in meditation. So start by closing your eyes. Take a nice deep breath in through your nose and let it out with a big sigh. When you allow yourself to verbalize as you breathe, this vibrates the vagus nerve. It encourages your parasympathetic nervous system to take over. So take another 2 or 3 deep breaths like that. And as I say every week, be gentle with yourself. If things don't feel like they're flowing, don't worry about it. Just breathe. Just stay in the moment as much as you can. If your mind wanders, take some deep breaths, encourage it gently to come back. If you start to feel emotional, just let that come up. That's energy releasing. The purpose of this is to be loving with yourself, to get really connected with yourself in a state of love, in a state of giving. So ground your feet, wiggle your toes a little bit, feel your feet on the earth. And you can imagine the top of your head, your crown chakra opening. Invite that divine light to flow in through the top of your head. You can see it any way you want. I see it as a golden light. If you see another color, that's fine. If you don't see a color, that's fine. Just invite this divine, unconditional love to flow into the top of your head. Let it fill your head and your face, your jaw and your throat, your neck. Allow this beautiful healing light to flow into your shoulders. Let it come down your upper arms and into your elbows. Allow this beautiful divine light to flow into your forearms and your wrists and your hands. Let this light flow into your chest and upper back, allowing this beautiful unconditional love, this energy of the divine, to flow into your belly and mid-back and down into your low belly and low back. Take a nice deep breath. Imagine drawing that breath all the way down to your hips and your pelvis. And then as you breathe out, let that energy flow through the hips and down into the upper part of your legs, down toward the knees. Take a nice big cleansing breath into the knees and let that out with a sigh. Send a little bit of gratitude to these joints that support us emotionally and physically in the world. And then let this light, this energy flow down the shins and calves, all the way to your ankles and feet. Notice if there are any areas you're still holding tension in your body, and take a few last deep breaths directly into the area of tension. And then let your breathing relax. Allow it to remain deep and steady. And you can take those cleansing breaths whenever you need to. We're going to head to our energetic sanctuary. If you're familiar with this practice, you can let yourself travel straight to your planet, to your sanctuary. If you're new to this, just imagine the most beautiful place you can imagine. Imagine there's a planet that is all yours. You can do anything you want there. It's a completely safe space for you to travel to. And just with your intention, let yourself be drawn to your energetic sanctuary. This is the area of the planet that's the most holy. It keeps you the most safe. And this is the area where we generally meet our intuitive guides, if we're meeting spirit guides, if we're meeting someone who's passed on. But this planet is limitless, and tonight I want you to spend a little bit of time exploring. So if you're new to your sanctuary, look around a little bit. If you've been here before, notice if anything's changed. Notice the colors, notice the scents. Let your 5 senses tell you what this space is like, where you're developing your 6th sense. Notice if you're outside or inside. And then as you feel comfortable, let yourself explore your planet a bit. We're not in physical space here, so you can use intention to go anywhere you like. You can travel to your waterfall of joy if you're familiar with that. Let yourself bathe for a moment or two in that divine joy. But let yourself be open here. Your intuition will tell you what else exists on your planet. Is there a space for healing? Is there a beautiful nature preserve? Let yourself be open here to whatever information comes to you, and spend the next few moments just exploring this beautiful energetic sanctuary, this beautiful planet that is your safe space. And let yourself notice if your sanctuary, if the holiest area that I've been directing you to is indeed the best place to receive intuitive information for you. It may not be. So with your intention, let yourself be drawn to the part of your planet that holds the most intuitive power, the most intuitive strength. And let yourself settle there. You can always come back and explore more. But for tonight, we want to be in the space where we're most open to our intuition. And give yourself a moment here and notice if there's anything you need to place in this area. As I mentioned, ritual can be important here. So look around this space. Are there objects here that are meaningful to you? If not, do you need to place something here? You can put anything you want in your space. It's your space. You might be drawn to leave a beautiful vase of flowers. You might want to have an altar. None of this is necessary. It's just what comes to you. Maybe there's nothing in your space and it's just a wide open area with room to expand. Anything that comes to you here is perfect. And if you're not a visual person, if you don't respond to visual imagery, that's okay. Just use your intention. Let yourself imagine with your other senses what your intuitive space feels like. And as we settle here, let yourself open fully, noticing how safe you are here. Nothing can harm you, nothing can come here that's not invited. So let yourself open fully to this space. Let your energy expand, let your mind expand, let your heart expand. Set the intention. I am open to my intuition. I am open to receiving intuitive guidance. I trust my intuition. You can repeat those affirmations out loud if you like, or just think them silently. I am open to my intuition. I am open to intuitive guidance. I trust my intuition. And let that expansion continue to spread if it feels appropriate, or just open to the expansion that's already happened tonight. You can come back to this space anytime you like. You can continue to expand. This is a safe space where you'll receive trusted information from your source of intuition, your higher self, your divine self, the divine, your guides, your loved ones. And now ask your intuition if there are any messages for you to receive this evening. And then wait. Be silent for a moment and see what comes to you. You may not hear anything, and your intuition may not come in the form of words. It may come as a feeling or a picture. And if nothing comes, that's okay. Don't be upset. Don't judge yourself. You're doing work to open this space so that you'll be able to receive more messages here in the future. So ask your intuition here, what can I do? How can I serve my intuition? What can I do to strengthen my intuition? How can I serve my intuition? Ask that question and then again be silent and see what kind of response you get, if any. And then last, before we travel back into the body, invite any source of intuitive joy to come to you in this moment. Whatever that means for you, maybe it's the sight of a lost loved one. Maybe you're stepping into your waterfall of joy. Maybe you're already in joy, just opening to this natural flow that's available to us at all times. Let your heart open to joy here for the last few moments. Notice how your body feels in this joy, in this safe space. Notice if your mind is becoming quieter. Let yourself really soak up the silence of this space for a last few moments. Send some gratitude to this intuitive space. And before we leave our planet, before we head back to the body, if you'd like to, let yourself joyfully run through a part of your planet, maybe a part that you've yet to explore, something that you saw earlier in the meditation. Let the imagery come to you in whatever way it comes, whether it's in words or pictures or emotions, whether you have a sense of how something smells or you're tasting a delicious food that's only found on your planet. Let yourself enjoy your space. The possibilities here are limitless. You are limitless. You are infinite. Your source is divine. You are the divine. And as you're ready, very gently, with love, with gratitude, set the intention to return to your body, knowing that you can return to your planet, to your energetic sanctuary anytime you like. Send some gratitude to your planet as you head back to your body. Let yourself come back into the room that you're in, and slowly back into the present moment, into your body, in this physical space. Coming back through the top of your head, into your neck and shoulders and down the arms. Flowing back down into your chest and back, your belly, into your hips and pelvis. Let yourself come back into the legs, the knees. Make sure that you send your awareness, your energy all the way back down to your feet. You can wiggle your toes a little bit. And then set the intention, I am fully present in my body. I am fully present in my body. I am fully present in my body. And one last time, before you open your eyes, before you move on with your evening, with your week, let yourself open to intuition with a moment of silence here and see what comes up, if anything. And then wiggle your toes, move your fingers around, maybe roll your wrists. And move your head back and forth a little bit. As you're ready, open your eyes. Be gentle and slow with this. Your intuition is just as powerful a sense as the 5 senses that you're used to using every day. Invite intuition to come into your life and continue this practice. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for being here for 3 months of Wind Down Wednesdays. We will continue this practice. We will continue to grow this habit together. Send a little bit of gratitude to the people who practiced here with you tonight, even though we're not in the same space. Our energy is connected, and we support each other with love and with devotion. So take a moment, send some gratitude to yourself, to the people who practiced here with you tonight. Have a wonderful rest of your night and a wonderful rest of your week. And I will see you next week for Wind Down Wednesday.